Your brand values can be powerful for setting your brand apart and helping you stand out. Brand values aren't something that you just simply write down and then put on your website and totally forget about. They should guide your brand, they should guide decision making, and they can also help your brand really stand out from the crowd and do things differently. It really should be a guiding light for your brand that pushes your brand forward and attracts the right people to your brand. So let's have a look at just how brand values can set your brand apart. I'm Tabitha Emma and I'm a brand design educator for creatives, and today I'm going to share with you how your brand values can really set your brand apart. A few weeks ago, I got an email from a writer and poet, and she said that she noticed that other people in the industry had websites that were very understated and minimal, and she wanted to know how she could really brand herself to stand out. And I started looking around at other writers and other authors and people who are in that writing industry, and something that I noticed were the ones that really stood out and were very memorable were the ones that put their values in the forefront. They were using their voice as a writer to express things that were important to them, and then that was also translating into their visuals. So they were allowing their values to differentiate their brand and really stand out. They weren't basing their branding simply on the fact that they were a writer and making it all about the fact that they sat down and wrote and had inspiration. Rather, they made their branding all about those values and making sure that they were the forefront. An example of this was one writer was very much about sustainability and reusing things and zero waste. And then her style had this very scrapbooky feel to it, so there was little handwritten things and bits of paper, and it sort of had that feeling of reusing what you've already got, making the most of it, getting scrappy. So she was translating those values into the visual style. And then there was another writer that was about body positivity. Now her actual books weren't focused on body positivity, but it was a value that's important to her, and so this was showing up in her branding as well. She was making posters and different things talking about body positivity, and then she was also pulling out quotes from her books that linked to body positivity and creating them as really cool posters that people could download. So there's all kinds of creative ways you can use your values to really stand out. Another writer's brand was all about community and family and coming together, and the actual branding had this very comforting feeling, as if you'd just been invited over to her house and was sitting at the kitchen table listening to her talk. It just had that really authentic, down-to-earth, comfortable, kind of friendship feeling about it. Another good example of this was back when I had a skincare line. So I had started to make natural skincare products, and when I was packaging them, at first I put them in plastic because it was just cheap and simple, and I wanted to see whether people would actually buy these products because I was brand new. But I quickly found that the people that were interested in natural skincare products also held the strong value of reusing things and zero waste and trying to use natural products in terms of packaging as well as the actual product as well. So they wanted glass jars rather than plastic. So I quickly moved to glass jars as things started to grow, but then I took it one step further because I thought, well, these people really care about natural things, reusing things, and that was becoming more and more important to me as well as I was starting to go down that journey. And so I decided to make some tags that went with these jars that gave simple recipes for how they could reuse the jar. So once it was all finished up, they had a simple little recipe they could create and put in the jar to reuse it. And then also on that tag, it had about the charity that the products were supporting too. So for every purchase, it was going towards a charity, and this charity that I chose was to help mothers. So another part of the brand was that I valued motherhood and helping out mothers, because part of this brand was born from the fact that as a mother, I was concerned about what I was putting on my children and into my family's home and trying to use less chemicals. And I knew that a lot of my audience and the people that were buying from me cared about that too. So you can find all sorts of creative ways to then put those brand values into the way you actually brand your business, and coming up with creative ways to package and also market. I also later worked with another skincare brand, and this time their values was more in self-care and self-love. So it was really about taking the time to really gently put this skincare on yourself and really look after yourself, and really taking the time to think, well, I matter and I'm going to give myself a special moment where I'm putting this on slowly, not rushing it. And so I suggest suggested to her, why don't we add little affirmation cards that come with the skincare? So some little self-love affirmation cards, so then it added to that experience of self-love. So it wasn't just about putting that product on and the whole self-care ritual involved with that, but then also they had a little affirmation that they could then put in their bathroom or near their mirror or somewhere where they could also look at that to keep reminding them to care for themselves. Now, if you think about it, that isn't something you normally see. Most skincare brands, you don't see them coming with little affirmation cards. So these are ways you can really stand out and be different. So thinking about your values can actually help you brainstorm and come up with really creative things that you could be doing to stand out and be different, and start to really draw in the people that care about those values too, because they'll be like, this brand really cares about those values and they're important to me, so I want to buy from them. I encourage you to take the time to really consider your own values, what's important to you, and also what's important to your audience. So when working on those brand values, first consider your own values, what's important to you that would relate to your brand, and then also listen to your audience. Even as you grow, keep listening to them. Keep noticing that the people that also hold those values, what else is important to them? And what are they saying? Are there areas that they're saying maybe you could improve in? Or are there certain things that they're saying they're really looking for in the marketplace and cannot find? These are areas of opportunity. They're areas where you can go, oh, this is what's really important. This is the value they hold dear. I can really emphasize that more, or I can make some changes that's going to make those people go, wow, this is what I've been looking for. This is what's really important to me. You need to make those values clear. Start broader, start with some really general terms, and then start to narrow it down and then really define it. So don't just give out a word and be like, that's the value, because that could mean different things to different people. So saying just sustainability, well, different people are going to interpret that differently. So really write down, what does that mean to you and your audience? What does that actually look like? What does that value actually play out as? How does it look in action? And then use those values as a guide. Start using them to direct decision making, and also help look for opportunities and ways you can really stand out as a brand. So I hope you found this video really helpful, and if you want to learn more about branding, graphic design and creativity, then be sure to subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you next time.